Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Las Vegas Sports Services NBA Weekly Report. I'm John Cranton, joined in Las Vegas by Jeff Saad, who runs LVSS. We're going to take a look at the NBA Atlantic Division this week, as well as some trivia. First, Jeff, I don't see any losing days on your card the last week. Look at the last couple of days. 5-2 on Wednesday, 3-1 on Thursday. Going back to the big Saturday card, 5-2. Overall, basketball plays a 56-26-2 spread run. Jeff, this is a phenomenal run that you're on. I guess you don't want February to end, do you?
No, I'll break it down for you. Since February 4th in the NBA, I'm 24-7-1 and 77%. 10-1 in best bets, 91%. College basketball, 32-19-1 and 63%. And consensus plays, those are my 20-star plays, 8-2, 80%. And so a combined 56-26-2, 68%. And Thursday night I had the Heat again. The line makers keep undervaluing the Heat, even though they were the NBA champions. Just 3.5-point favorites on the road at Chicago was the easy 5-point winner for me. The Heat's won 9 in a row. They covered 6 in a row. I've been on the last 4 games. So I'm going to give everybody a chance to get on board, the hottest service in the country. You're going to get 2 weeks of basketball, NBA and college, just $10. It will include another college conference game of the year. I'm 3-1 in games of the year. Last Saturday I had 2 conference games of the month. They both won. Towson and the Colonial and San Francisco in the West Coast Conference. So you're going to get plays every day. Build your bankroll for 2 weeks of action, just $10. Call L.V.S.S to 1-866-575-8916.
Okay, be sure and get aboard a red-hot handicapper for the next 10 days or 2 weeks with Jeff. Let's start off with the big news, really, was the NBA trading deadline, and we heard talk about the trades every day for over a week, and then really not much happened. The only big name was J.J. Redick, really not much at all. How do you see Orlando improving or getting worse after this trade, and why did they do it?
Well, another one of those luxury tax threshold things. That's why there weren't that many blockbuster trades or any blockbuster trades. These teams have just been handcuffed by the new collective bargaining agreement, and most of the teams that made trades yesterday weren't going anywhere anyway. Most of them were bad teams. J.J. Redick was a big fan favorite in Orlando. They didn't want to get rid of him, but they didn't want to pay him $9 million either, so they thought they'd trade him. They got Deron Lamb, Tobias Harris, and Beno Udrih. I guess they improved a little bit, but they have a long way to go. So, but I think Orlando still has a go against teams the rest of the year, especially on the road. They're 1-8 against the spread in the last 9 road games, John.
Yeah, they're also 8-20 against the spread, the last 28 games overall, and they don't play any defense, which is a common sign this time of the year when teams begin to pack it in. How about 19-8-1? I'm sorry. How about 20-8 over the total over the last 28 games? That's a trend that wouldn't be surprised to continue. You know, with the Bucks, they picked up Redick. It's kind of awkward because their backcourt is actually the strength of the team. It was a case of a team just adding depth really in the backcourt. But what the Bucks need is defense and rebounding, and they really don't address it with a guy like Redick. And keep in mind, the over for the Bucks is 16-5 when they face a team with a winning record. They still are going to have trouble when they face teams that are very good because they're in the middle of the pack in rebounding and field goal shooting defense. Okay, let's take a look at the NBA Atlantic Division. You got the Knicks, who may or may not, with their talent, be able to give the Miami Heat a run. And then you got a bunch of also-rans trying to come after them. How do you see the New York Knicks, Jeff? Are they for real or breaking down and overrated?
Well, they got totally embarrassed at Indiana the other night. That was just a ridiculous showing for them. Obviously, they weren't ready to play, but it's also worrisome because they've lost 4 of the last 5 now. Many theories as to what's happening to the Knicks. They might have been just tuned out. The coach, Mike Woodson, opposing teams might have learned to defend them. They might have been playing over their heads the first couple of months. And, of course, J.R. Smith doesn't seem to handle adversity very well. But it comes down to the shooting. We talk a lot about shooting percentage. Those last 4 games, the Knicks have shot 40%. And they're not going to go anywhere with that kind of performance. So sometimes after a team gets humiliated, they bounce back the next game with a good performance. We're doing the show on Friday. Tonight, the Knicks play at Toronto, and we'll know a lot more after that game.
Yeah, the other team in the division, the Celtics, they were the big story coming into the trading deadline, and they certainly didn't get any worse because they were able to keep Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. But they really didn't add much of significance. That was Jordan Crawford, a guard they picked up from Washington. He's only 24 years old, and I can see it was a value pick because this guy was the 27th overall pick in the 2010 draft. He's averaged 13 points and 26 minutes for his career this season, 13 points. So it's not a bad addition, although Boston's concerns really are rebounding like Milwaukee, and they really didn't address that. And what you have with the Celtics, they're 18th in the NBA in points scored, no Rajon Rondo, but they have gone back to playing much better defense. They're 9th in the NBA in points allowed, and keep in mind the Celtics are 6-1 under the total when they face a team with a winning percentage of below 40%, so they really clamp down the defense on bad teams. Big problem, though, for the Celtics is road play, and that's what's going to really handicap them as far as getting into position for the postseason. 8-17 start on the road, and if you want to look at spread, they're just as bad on the road. 5-13 against the spread in the last 18 road games, although they do have the kind of postseason experience and defense that could make them a bit of a wild card in the postseason, but I can't see them threatening Miami. How about these young, underrated Brooklyn Nets, Jeff? Are they for real?
Last month we talked about the effect of new coaches on the teams, and generally we said the first couple of weeks it's a good thing to bet on them because the team seems like they have a new lease on life, but then as the season goes along, they revert to being what they were before the hiring of the new coach. When P.J. Klessman took over, the Nets won 12 of the next 14 games, and they had a rough patch. They lost 6 out of the last 9. But now they've won 4 in a row, 3-1 against the spread, and it's been in impressive fashion. They won at Indiana, they beat Denver, and they beat the Bucks on back-to-back nights, which is not easy to do no matter who you're playing in the NBA. And Klessman says Deron Williams probably won't be 100% the rest of the season, but if Deron Williams and the rest of the team can stay healthy, then, they'll look like they're going to be the number 4 seed in the playoffs. So right now, things look pretty good for the Brooklyn Nets, John.
Well, the two teams that are left in the Atlantic Division will split these up. Toronto and Philly, they're really right where they should be, bottom feeders, although Philly is on the Eastern Conference bubble. When you look at the 76ers, this is a team that's got, I like the talent on the team. Evan Turner, Allen, and Drew Holiday, and Nick Young. And last year, they actually played fairly well when Spencer Hawes was up front and kind of fell apart when he got injured. Well, Hawes is back playing, but this team just hasn't played well from start to finish. They play a slow defensive style, but it really doesn't suit them very well. They're 29th in the NBA in points scored, 7th in points allowed, and that's because they play that slow tempo. But this offense is just awful. Even though they slow the pace down, look at the shooting percentages of the team. It's still very bad. 19th in the NBA in field goal shooting from the field, and then three-point land, it's the same 19%, 35%. So this team doesn't know how to score, and what kills them, unable to score, is when they go on the road. 6-17 start on the road. Game they played against Minnesota this week, it was just a disaster from the opening tip, down 35-25 in the first period. I mean, this Minnesota team has trouble scoring. You give up 35 on them, and when this Philadelphia team gets behind like that, they simply can't come back. What was even more disturbing is they got destroyed on the glass from a team without Kevin Love, 51-39. And keep in mind that over the last 8-game stretch, only once did a team top 100 points, and that was a loss to the Clippers, 107-90. So if they're not preventing the other team from scoring, this team is dead. And also during that 8-game stretch, 7-1 under the total. That's a trend to keep in mind with the 76ers. How about Toronto, Jeff? Here's a team that got off to a bad start, but then kind of got healthy and turned around. Where do they stand for the stretch run?
Yeah, of the bubble teams in the East, the Raptors right now have a clear advantage over the 76ers. 76ers it's time for them to get a new coach, as we said before in the show. Doug Collins it's just not happening for him. I know he's a smart guy and everything, but it's just not coming together in Philadelphia. The Raptors have been much improved since the Rudy Gay trade. They've won 5 of the last 6, 4-2 against the spread. They're 10-4-1 against the spread following a loss, which is always a good sign of a decent team when they bounce back from a loss. And right now, the Toronto is the team for that last couple of playoff spots in the East, not Philadelphia.
Okay, well, let's take a look at some news information with the Lakers. We have the Jerry Buss tragedy, which helped fire them up this week. But on last week's show, we mentioned that the Lakers were minus 200 in Vegas not to make the playoffs. And you said that's very good shape that they're not going to make it. Well, I'm going to give you a chance to retract that because they have been playing pretty well. What do you think? Is this just a short burst, or are they a team that could get over that number 7 or 8 seed in the West?
Well, the death of Jerry Buss certainly changes the dynamic here. The way that if the Lakers play the way they did against the Celtics in the inspirational game on Tuesday night, they could definitely make the playoffs. You know, I lived in L.A. in the 1980s, and there was one of my favorite things was watching the Lakers. Not only were they great teams, but they were some of the most entertaining teams ever, and Jerry Buss had a lot to do with that. So they're 3.5 games out right now, the 8th playoff spot as I speak. Right now it's minus 200 that they will not make the playoffs. I don't think it's going to go up. I might hold off now for a while and see how they play. So last week I think it was close to being a sure thing, but right now with this week, with all this happening this week, it could be different. But if I had to make a choice right now, I still say the Lakers would not make the playoffs, Tim.
Yeah, and we brought it up because Kobe Bryant was the one who said we definitely will. So they're not there yet. They need to make a run to get the number 7 or 8 spot. Okay, let's take a look at, and keep this in mind, when the Lakers cover a game, they're awful in trying to get a spread streak going. They're 15-35 against the spread after they cover a game. All right, let's take a look at some trends to keep in mind. The Timberwolves against the Western Conference, 8-20 against the spread. The Thunder, you give that young team 1 day of rest. They're 23-11-1 against the spread. And the Denver Nuggets, with that up-tempo style, 3rd in the NBA in scoring, they are 16-5 over the total. And the Washington Wizards, playing a little bit of defense, 27-12 under the total when you give that team 2 days of rest. Keep in mind some teams that are on some bad road trips right now. The Knicks, we mentioned them earlier, they're playing 10 of 15 on the road. The Atlanta Hawks have a 6-game road trip on deck. Celtics are in the middle of a stretch playing 15 of 22 on the road. And the Charlotte Bobcats are beginning a stretch playing 7 of 10 away. If Charlotte didn't have enough trouble, they certainly do now. Okay, Jeff, it's trivia time. NBA history, what team had the most rebounds over the course of an entire season?
Well, it would have to be, I would guess it would be either the Celtics or 76ers teams or the Philadelphia Warriors teams in the early 1960s. With Chamberlain and Russell.
Yep, you're correct, as well as the time frame. It was the 1959-60 Celtics that averaged 71.5 rebounds per game. And just to put that in perspective, the team that had the lowest rebounds per game was the 1995-96 Cleveland Cavaliers, was 35.6 rebounds per game. I mean, that's roughly half. And what that tells you there is that the game has totally changed from the 60s to the more recent days. What are some of the things that have changed with respect to rebounding and offensive numbers that you've seen?
Well, up until, I think, 1971, there were free throws from the beginning of the game. You didn't wait for the 6th foul or the 5th foul. If somebody fouled somebody with 10 seconds gone in the game, you shoot free throws out of the way. So all those missed free throws went to Chamberlain and Russell. There was a pretty much automatic. Also, back then, teams were not shooting very well. I think they might have shot 40% per game. The game was still evolving, so there were more missed shots. Shooting, I think, peaked in the late 80s, early 90s, and now it's gone back down again to around 45% or so. Maybe it's because of the three-point shot. But there are more rebounds to be had in those days. That's why we don't see games that Wilt used to have like 55 rebounds a game and things like that anymore.
Yeah, that's another reason you won't see a guy like Wilt average 50 points per game. Those days are long gone as the game has changed. Okay, that'll wrap it up from here. Jeff Saad has been on an incredible run in both NBA and college. These are the numbers in the NBA, 24-7-1 run. That's 70% winners, 32-19-1, 63% winners in college. Jeff, tell everybody how they can jump aboard this red-hot express train that LVSS has.
Well, just call LVSS. You're going to get 2 weeks, NBA and college. It's $10. We'll include another college conference game of the year on Saturday. I've already won 3 out of 4 of those. And you got to get plays every day. Just call LVSS at 1-866-575-8916. 1-866-575-8916. It
is the best time to get aboard, folks, with March Madness right on the horizon. That'll do it for this show. We will see you next Friday with another LVSS NBA report.